I thought it was gunfire at first, that's how loud it was. Just past dawn, and something was slamming metal into the earth behind my house like it was trying to wake the dead. When I stepped outside, coffee half poured, heart pounding. I didn't find a burglar or a bear. I found Karen, in yoga pants, holding a smoothie, and fencing off my family's creek like she owned it. What she didn't know, that little swamp she was sealing up was a federally protected fishery, and she just declared war on something a lot older and a hell of a lot meaner than an HOA. She messed with the wrong patch of water, and the creek remembered. You don't wake up at 6 a.m. in retirement unless something's wrong or your bladder's loud. That morning, it wasn't my bladder. It was a pounding, rhythmic, metallic, angry. Sounded like someone was building a prison in my backyard. I threw on a flannel and stumbled out onto the porch, and what I saw nearly made my heart stop. 3 men in neon vests were hammering steel posts into the banks of my creek. Not near the creek, not around it, into it. They were fencing it off like it was a livestock pen. And there she was, Karen, fold-out chair, smoothie in hand, yoga pants so tight you could see the tension in her bones. She didn't even flinch when I approached. "You're welcome," she called out. "We're beautifying your swamp." Swamp. That's what she called it. That swamp ran through this property for 5 generations. It's where my dad taught me to fish. It's where I proposed to my wife with a $40 ring and a lot of hope. It's where my daughter caught her first frog and cried because it peed on her hand. And it's where I spread my father's ashes, just under the cottonwood that still leans a little to the left. That creek isn't just a water feature. It's memory, blood, love, and now apparently communal property. Karen was new to the neighborhood, moved in 6 months ago, and within 3 weeks had clawed her way onto the HOA board. You know the type. Moved from a condo, never touched a shovel, but suddenly has strong opinions about your porch chairs and mailbox color. She wore authority like it was designer perfume. Loud, unpleasant, and impossible to ignore. The first signs were subtle. Notes on my door about non-regulation, garden decor. Complaints that my American flag was too faded. My dad's funeral flag, mind you. Then came the community harmony notices, passive-aggressively reminding residents that our yards should reflect a shared aesthetic experience. Whatever that means. I brushed it off like most folks do. Old dogs don't bark at every squirrel. But this wasn't a squirrel. This was a raccoon in lipstick setting fire to the chicken coop. When I confronted her, Karen flashed me a laminated printout. Some page from the HOA bylaws she swore gave her the right to aestheticize and rezone for visual balance. Her words, not mine. I asked her where in the rules it said she could build a fence on someone else's land. She smiled like I just didn't understand. "It's not about ownership," she said. "It's about presence. We're creating a collective healing space." I told her the only healing I needed was for my blood pressure after talking to her. She laughed and turned away. By the next morning, the fence had grown, like some metal weed with HOA roots. Panels were going up on both sides of the creek, now boxing it in like it was dangerous. I counted 6 posts already hammered in. A faux bamboo trellis had appeared overnight. There were even signs being staked that read Serenity Zone, HOA access only. The ducks wouldn't even go near it. Now listen, I'm not some anti-progress curmudgeon. I've got Wi-Fi. I voted for curbside compost. But when a stranger starts dictating the flow of your land without asking, that's not progress. That's trespass. I did what any stubborn, semi-retired man who smells like Old Spice and bad decisions would do. I called Dean. Dean's an old game warden. Smells like cedar and bacon grease. Man's got more stories than a fishing dock on a Sunday morning. He was there in 10 minutes flat, stepping out of his truck with a grim look and his classic chew already in his lip. "She fenced off the whole damn thing," he muttered, eyeing the creek. "That's not just stupid, that's criminally stupid." Then he knelt down, brushed away some leaves, and pulled out a magnifier like some wilderness Sherlock Holmes. After a few seconds, he looked up at me, his face gone pale. "You know what this is?" "A bad day." "No. This is a federally protected steelhead spawning tributary. Has been since 1994. I used to tag fish here for the state. There are sensors buried up and downstream to monitor the flow." "What does that mean?" Dean didn't even blink. "It means she didn't just mess with your creek. She messed with the United States government." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Karen setting up wind chimes and yoga mats over what used to be my fishing spot. But around 3 a.m., I remembered something, a letter. Something from years ago that my father once showed me. I didn't remember where it was, but I remembered what he said when he handed it to me. "This is your insurance policy, just in case someone ever forgets who this land belongs to." I dug through my garage for 2 hours until I found it. Old metal box, tucked behind a stack of fishing tackle and dog-eared war novels. Inside was a certificate, dated 1973. It confirmed the creek's classification under a federal conservation initiative. Signed, stamped, protected. A copy of the original land grant from 1911 was inside, too, and it was clear as day. The creek, the land surrounding it, and even a 20-foot buffer zone on either side, all registered, monitored, and protected. Karen hadn't just crossed a line. She'd stepped on it with both feet and tried to redecorate it. That morning, I sent everything to the regional office of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Photos, documents, and a grainy video of Karen telling a group of local kids to leave because they were disrupting the creek's aura. The response was quick and cold. "Thank you for your report. This site is under federal protection. We will investigate immediately." The battle lines were drawn. Karen didn't back down. Of course she didn't. By the time the agents arrived, she had doubled the size of her so-called reflection zone, complete with crystal pyramids, sound bowls, and a sign that read, "Only those with peaceful intentions may pass." Fish and wildlife showed up in khakis and utility vests, but they weren't tourists. They carried badges, tools, and an attitude that screamed, "We've seen worse than your smoothie stand, Karen." She tried to block them at the entrance to the creek. "You can't come in here without HOA permission," she said, brandishing her clipboard like it was a sword. The lead agent flashed his badge and didn't blink. "Ma'am, we're here under the authority of the Endangered Species Act and the Clean Water Act. Your bylaws don't override federal law." It was the first time I saw Karen falter. When they found the buried transmitter that her fence had damaged, the agent calmly informed her that she'd triggered a data disruption. That's when Karen did the unthinkable. She lunged for a bolt cutter in the agent's hand, shouting something about energy flows and ownership. That got the sheriff called. That night, there was an emergency HOA meeting. And for once, Karen didn't control the room. I didn't need to say much. I brought my documents. Dean brought a copy of the restoration plan. And the agents, well, they brought the weight of the U.S. government. Karen was fined, suspended from her HOA role, and warned that any future interference would result in criminal charges. The room clapped, not because she lost, but because someone finally stood up and reminded her and everyone else that history matters and so does respect, you'd think, after a federal warning and a town hall humiliation. Karen would tuck her tail and quietly retreat into her salt lamp collection. But no, not Karen. 2 days later, I walked past her backyard and saw a new sign staked into the ground. Private reflection area. HOA access only. She'd added folding chairs, a solar-powered stone fountain that burbled like a leaky toilet, and, I kid you not, a giant dream catcher hanging from the fake bamboo trellis. It was clear. This wasn't just ego anymore. It was spiritual warfare. But the creek wasn't on her side, and neither was time. Early that week, the agents came back, this time with backup. Environmental chemist, state water rep, another fish and wildlife team. It looked like a SWAT raid for flower beds. They cordoned off the area like it was a crime scene, because, frankly, it was. And when they started digging along the fence posts, that's when they found it. Buried concrete blocks, bags of cement mixed hidden under camo tarps, and signs of tampering near the spawning pockets, the delicate pools where steelhead lay their eggs each season. Karen had done more than fence the creek. She tried to rebuild it, twist its flow like it was some crooked garden hose. As the agents removed panel after panel of fencing, they unearthed sensor wires that had been cut clean through, a deliberate act. And suddenly, this wasn't a zoning issue anymore. This was sabotage. That night, the neighborhood buzzed louder than a summer cicada. Someone, not me and not Dean, posted a photo on the local community board. No caption, just Karen's backyard, the creek, and the sad little cement wall poking out from the water like a failed ancient dam. It spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, the post had over 3,000 comments. People were tagging news stations, environmental groups, even a popular wildlife YouTuber. Then came the memes. One showed Karen in a hard hat with the caption, "Queen of Creek Construction, coming to Netflix." Another had a shot of the cement wall edited into the Hoover Dam with the phrase, "When HOA power goes to your head." But the real kicker? Someone had footage from one of the motion-triggered trail cams that Fish and Wildlife had reactivated during their first inspection. And it showed Karen in full villain mode. Night vision goggles, a headlamp, painter's jumpsuit, dragging bags of quick-set concrete in a wheelbarrow like she was trying to build the Berlin Wall underwater. She slipped twice, cursed like a sailor, and at one point sang a mangled version of the national anthem with the lyrics, "My creek, my rules." The video hit Reddit, then Facebook, then the 6 o'clock news. By the time it made it to a late-night show where it was reenacted with sock puppets, Karen had officially become a cautionary tale wrapped in a smoothie-drinking punchline. But while Karen's downfall played out on the internet, something better was happening down at the creek. The town, tired, worn out, but finally united, came to help. Veterans, teachers, old fishermen with knobby hands and stories longer than their poles. Teenagers who'd grown up skipping rocks here. Mothers who used to bring toddlers to feed the ducks. Folks who didn't always agree on politics, paint colors, or porch sizes, but agreed on this. The creek mattered. Restoration crews showed up. Dean supervised like a general from a lawn chair. I hauled rock and planted native grasses with a kid whose only goal was to find a frog and name it James Pond. By week's end, the water was running clear again. You could hear it, the soft gurgle as it wound around the bend, like it was exhaling after holding its breath too long. And the wildlife, they came back too. Steelhead, flashing silver just beneath the surface. A heron standing tall on the far bank, unmoved by the past drama. Frogs croaking their approval as the sun dipped low. The land was healing. So were we. Now here's the thing about land with a past. It doesn't forget. And sometimes if you listen real close, it speaks up. Dean found it. We were replanting near the bend, where Karen's fake lotus windchime had once hung, when he stumbled on something hard beneath the dirt. Not a rock, not concrete. Metal. We dug carefully, real slow. Didn't want to disturb anything again. What we uncovered was a hinged hatch, rusted shut, covered in vines and thyme. Took both of us and a crowbar to get it open. Inside was a box, old, weather-worn, and wrapped in a moldy canvas sack. Inside that, history, original land grants, signed and dated in the early 1900s. Handwritten letters from surveyors, correspondence from the federal government confirming the creek's mineral rights and environmental significance, and tucked in a small velvet pouch, coins. Gold coins, stamped 1872. Turned out Dean's great-grandfather had worked this land during a forgotten gold rush. The creek had once been a key waterway for prospectors and settlers, part of a mining claim that fizzled out before it ever got rich. The county historian confirmed it all. And just like that, the creek wasn't just a water source. It was federally significant historical property. Karen had tried to control it, and in doing so, unearthed the very proof that would keep it forever out of her reach. Weeks passed. Karen sold her house quietly, like a thief retreating in daylight. Rumors said she moved to Arizona to recenter spiritually. Others claimed she was spotted arguing with a ranger at the Grand Canyon about negative vortex energy. Doesn't matter, because one morning, as the mist rolled off the water and the sun cut through the trees just right, I stood at the edge of the creek with my great-grandson, 5 years old, wiggly, curious, bright-eyed. I handed him my old rod, the one patched with duct tape and grit. He asked if he could catch a fish. Maybe, I said, but that's not why we're here. He looked at me, confused. Then why? I stared at the water, at the life running through it, the memories stitched into every ripple. Because this place matters. And someday, when I'm gone and your mom's gone, and even your dog's gone, this creek'll still be here, flowing, teaching, remembering. He cast the line. It snagged on a root. We laughed. He tugged again, and I realized the creek didn't just survive. It won, not because of laws, not because of fines, but because enough people remembered what Karen forgot. Land isn't something you own. It's something you honor.